Bryce Harper. Eliot, how you doing today?
Doing good. Excited to talk Phillies, and I leave for the Combine in 3 days. Which is
Oh
wild.
boy,
Yeah.
that means we're about to get Eagles news again.
Yeah.
Eliot, I think it's kind of funny that the Eagles drama lasted from the end of the playoff game all the way up until the Castellanos thing last week, and the Phillies have taken the baton and they're sprinting with this thing until the Eagles take it back from us, a few days from now.
Yeah, and it's probably not a baton they want to run with, right? Normally, they're able just to kind of be the focus of attention when they're good. Look, there's obviously a ton of takeaways from this. I'm sure we'll get into it now. But you would never see this happen with the Eagles to this level, right? There is drama with the Eagles, but self-created drama like this and then another player clapping back, you just don't often see it from the Eagles.
Well, you don't. And Eliot, now we wonder is how we're going to look back on this thing. And there's a couple ways. Some people think Hugh thinks it's a motivating factor for Bryce and he's going to have a great season and everyone will be happy in the end. I tend to think this could be the beginning of the end of the relationship. And I'm not sure if Bryce is the kind of guy that just gets over these kind of things and we all move on. When you unpack everything that's happened here, how do you think we're going to talk about this a year or two or three from now?
I think we're going to say Dombrowski was right. It's funny. He should not have said it. Obviously, it's one of the dumber things I've heard a GM say in recent years. But I think what's interesting is nobody's saying he's wrong, right? No one's saying, well, that's incorrect. What they're saying is he shouldn't have said it. And then the motivating thing, maybe he's trying to use it as a motivating factor. But I think what's more likely is he just let how he really feels slip, right? And I think that we do this thing where it's like, well, it's going to be motivating for him so he'll have a good season next year. I think he was motivated last year. He just didn't really play well. He's not going to get bigger, stronger, faster next year. None of us really do when we get older. And unless we think the pitchers up on the mound are going to throw him better pitches just because they think Bryce is motivated, I don't really see what's going to change next year. The cleanup hitter behind him is not very good still. I like Alec Bohm, but he's not an ideal cleanup hitter. So Bryce can be motivated all he wants. I don't think that's going to change the pitches he gets. It's not going to change the fact that he's older. And I think Dombrowski, while he should not have said it, obviously, was mostly just saying how he feels, and that's concerning.
Well, it is, and it makes you want – Eliot, I have bigger questions about Dombrowski's future than Bryce's. I think Bryce is on a normal kind of trajectory, right? He's getting older. He's not quite as great as he used to be. We'll see what the next 2 or 3, 4 years are, but I think I could kind of guess it. Dombrowski's the issue, Eliot. You said it a few minutes ago. The Eagles would never. I mean, I've said this a lot since October. There's no way in the world Howie Roseman would get to the podium after a season and say, Jalen Hurts was the 16th best quarterback at pro football. We'll see if he'll ever get back to being a top 5 guy. He would never say that even if he thought that to be true.
And by the way, there was no real debate about Bryce, right? I think there was the beginnings of he didn't have a good year, he's a little older, the very beginnings of it. Jalen has won a Super Bowl, and every single day it's questioned how good he is, right? So you're right. Howie would never say it. He could be asked the question 1,000 different ways. He has been asked the question, right, about Jalen's year, how he was. And when he was asked about Jalen's year, which we all know was not a great year, what did he say? He said, we've won a Super Bowl with Jalen. We have a ton of belief in him. That's what you say, right? But that's the difference between a team in the Eagles that's used to being in the spotlight and a team in the Phillies that really only is in the spotlight in October for about a week.
Yep. All right, let's go to the Eagles, who are about to come back in the spotlight again. You're heading out to Indianapolis for the Combine, which I think, Eliot, almost serves as two different things. One, it's the Combine, right, and the prospects and the top guys, and the Eagles will do their due diligence on who they might draft in April. But also, it really serves as the unofficial start to the offseason where these GMs are all in the same city and hotels and whatever, and things start happening. So, Eliot, next week we'll hear from Howie. We'll hear from Sirianni. I guess it's the first time they'll have to address the Stoutland thing and then Sean Mannion. If you had to guess, what do you expect the messaging to be next week from the Eagles?
I'm going to guess they're going to handle it a lot better than Dombrowski does. What they're going to say is they have nothing but respect for Jeff Stoutland. He did amazing things here. Didn't work out obviously, but they're only going to say positive things about him. And with Mannion, they'll say they were really impressed with him in the interviews. They interviewed 15 candidates, whatever it is. He really blew them away. They didn't go into it thinking there was anybody they wanted, but they were really impressed with him. So my guess is next week, it will be the first time we'll hear them talk about it. But as normal, the way Eagles handle things, I don't think they'll say anything that'll really cause much of a stir.
Ooh, what you think they're going to say about Patullo and his departure?
My guess is, my guess is they're going to say, hey, it's never one person. We felt a change was needed. We're trying to do different things on offense, but all of us have to be better next year, if I had to guess. Now, I think we all know what the truth is with these things, right? Like, I think with Stoutland, they felt that, they want to run the ball in a different way this year, and Stoutland has not done that, right? And I think also if Stoutland was willing to stay and be the offensive line coach, then I think they would have probably kept him. But I think they wanted to try to do everything a little more on one page, if that makes sense. Like Jason Kelsey talked about this on the morning show about a month ago about how even when he was there, everything was kind of very segmented. So I think that's the reason Stoutland's gone. I think Patullo is gone because they do want to try a new offense. And when you're trying to hire coaches that have coached that offense, you need like a title to give them and an appealing job to pull them away. And so I think that's the reason for Patullo.
You said something that intrigued me a little bit. You said new offense. So you believe that this offense is going to look really different?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to try. I mean, if you think about the time since Sirianni got here, right? He was hired in 21, comes in, and they tried to do something different, I would say, for the first few weeks, right? I think Jalen was throwing it 30-something times a game if you look at the beginning of 21, and then that wasn't working. So they went to a run-first approach. And really since then, I think, especially with 22, because of the success they've had, they've never really had to make a major overhaul to the offense. Even last year in 25, they were coming off of the best rushing attack in the history of the NFL and winning the Super Bowl by 40 points. So there was no true need to really reinvent things. I think they view this as a time and place where they're going to say, you know what, we've had a ton of success this way. It's time to do something different. Now the question will be, can they do it? I don't expect, if it's working, sure, they'll do it first, second, and third down. But if it's second and 10 because, the pass over the middle wasn't completed, they'll go back to what works. I just think they're going to try to do something different.
Eliot, I expect this next week or so, and when you get there, one of the talks of the town is going to be A.J. Brown and a potential trade and his value. And we know it's a big cap hit if they move on. It's about $43 million. So, with that being the backdrop, that it's a hit on them, and he's still a good player, what do you think the value the Eagles might need back to even consider this? It's one thing if he couldn't play anymore or he demands it, but let's just say the Eagles are interested, they're open to listening. What do you think they have to hear back from a potential offer to get them to consider it? I'd imagine, right, if we start with a 4th or 5th round pick, they're going to just hang up the phone. But how high do we have to go for them to say, all right, we'll think about this?
Yeah, so if you would have asked me this 2 months ago, I don't think AJ had a ton of value, but this is maybe the best market you could ever ask for if you're going to trade AJ. You look at the teams that need him and that are likely going to be interested. The Patriots, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens. I mean, that's if the whole NFC East is involved. It could not go better for the Eagles in terms of the teams out there that are willing to pay to acquire AJ. So in terms of what it will take, it would not shock me if they got a 2 that could become a 1 or something, or even just a flat out 1, right? If you're the Bills or the Ravens, that one's going to be a late round pick more than likely. So yeah, I think now you could seriously talk about potentially getting a first round pick. And I think with AJ, where they're at with it is they would like to keep AJ. In an ideal world, everyone's happy. You just keep him. You don't take the cap hit. But I also think the difference between an AJ and maybe some other players on the roster is now might be the time to capitalize on the peak of his value. You could argue maybe it was last year, but because of the market, I think there's a good chance it might actually be this year. So I don't think the Eagles are going into this offseason saying we're not planning on having AJ, but I do think they know they're going to get really good offers. They know that AJ, certainly seemed frustrated over the past year. And they know that if they acquire a good asset, you could kind of reset the position cheaper when you're putting so much money on defense. So I don't think they're going to give AJ away, but I think it sets up nicely to get a really good return for him.
Eliot Shorr-Parks with us here, going to the Combine in a few days. Eliot, last week it was decision week on WIP, and you were strong. I heard you Friday morning with the morning show and then with the afternoon show after that on the Jalen Hurts, would you draft another quarterback decision? And I know where you're at in that, and we all debated. But I'm curious on this. Put yourself back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right, when the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts. Were there tells? Do you think we're going to see a paper trail between now and April, or will we be shocked again? Because I was trying to put myself back in 2020, and I recognized things were a little bit different. It was COVID, so maybe reporting on things and being around the team was a little bit different. But, Eliot, let's go to next week. Do you expect them to kind of be hovering around the quarterbacks and interviewing the quarterbacks, and are we going to know about it? Or if they are interested, are they going to keep this under wraps? Because I feel like we were mostly shocked when the Hurts things happened, but we're already as a station and a fan base talking about the idea of this. What do you think on that? Do you think we'll have a sense they're in the market for one, or are we going to be blown away if they take one?
So I remember it the same way you do. I think in 2020, the idea of them drafting a quarterback was not really on anybody's radar at all. I think at this point, if they drafted one in the second round, we would probably all say that's shocking. But when we've discussed it for months, it's hard to say it's truly shocking. In terms of whether they will try to hide it, yeah, I think with all draft stuff, and especially this type of decision, you would want as few people to know, A, because if you want to take the player, you don't want people to know you're interested. But B, they know the circus it will cause if they take a quarterback in the second round. And like I've said, if I was Jalen and they take a quarterback in the second round, I would never step foot in the Jefferson complex again. Right?
Make sure we get it right.
Get it in that name.
Jefferson.
Yeah. And by the way, I think that's what we should call it, the Jefferson complex. I think that's the nice little,
the Jefferson. You like that, Hugh? The Jefferson complex?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. But I don't think they're going to take a quarterback in the second round. I know that there's been speculation about it. I don't think they'll do it. I think if they do, they'll just trade Jalen. I don't think they would have a world where they take a quarterback in the second round and Jalen is on the roster. They've lived that. They know what it's like. It'll be way worse this time than it was last time.
But it worked. It worked last time. It worked.
But it was poor process. You know what I mean? Maybe Harper will have a great year this year. That doesn't mean Dombrowski should have said what he said. The Sixers haven't won a title, but the process was obviously the right decision.
But couldn't I argue the process was perfect? They thought their quarterback was in decline. They found a hedge, and the hedge turned out to be better.
But then just trade Jalen is my point.
No, but when you hedge, you don't know. You're admitting you don't know, so you have this hedge in case.
But the second you take a quarterback in the second round, Jalen's career with the Eagles is over.
Well, it doesn't have to be true.
Well, it's absolutely true. If you look at the history of quarterbacks that have been taken in the second round, almost all of them end up becoming starters, right? So Jalen himself ended up becoming a starter. So, we have that video now of Doug in the airplane for some reason talking about how they knew Jalen was going
best video
to be
ever.
a starter.
Well, I don't know why he did that, but I love the video. It is great.
It's amazing. Agreed. But, we know that if they take a quarterback in the second round, it will be because they are skeptical about Jalen's future.
Yes.
And if you're skeptical about Jalen's future, then just move on now, right? So I think it would be a disastrous decision to take a quarterback in the second round.
So I do agree with you that almost every second-round pick quarterback becomes a starter. It doesn't have to be here. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was drafted by the Patriots. They ended up getting a first-round pick for him to the 49ers because Tom Brady kept playing well when they thought Tom Brady was about to be done. It doesn't have to ruin everything with Jalen's career.
Yeah, I just don't think you can make decisions based off the outlier, right? You have to make decisions.
No, I'm basing it on the Eagles. The Eagles have evidence this works. Jalen Hurts is their evidence.
But it didn't work. But it didn't work for Carson.
But the objective's not the quarterback here. The objective's the Eagles.
I would agree, but right now the objective of the team is to get the best version of Jalen possible, right? You're right. They could take a quarterback in the second round. It could end up working out, maybe. But ultimately, this current team is going to be as good as Jalen is going to be. And with the second you take a quarterback in the second round, that shifts. It changes to he's the important guy. He's the one that's on the cheap rookie deal. He's the one you just showed a ton of faith in. Jalen becomes the one that they will have drafted his replacement. So I get your point. Yeah, maybe it'll work out where the second-round pick ends up being good, but it won't work out for Jalen. And that's why if I'm Jalen, I would demand to be traded to another team, and I would have a team that would be happy to have me, that would not be drafting my replacement, that'll give me a new contract, and I'll be happy there. But if the Eagles want to draft a quarterback in the second round, then we know where this is headed.
Well, that I agree with. Well, we at least know this. They're not sure anymore. I mean, that would be quite obvious to everyone. Eliot, we appreciate you hopping on. Enjoy a few days here before you head out to Indianapolis.
Yeah, head out and have fun, man.
I will. Well, it's hard to have fun in Indy, but I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, there he is. Eliot Shorr-Parks.
You don't know where to go.
Well, just avoid the place Mark Sanchez went is what I would say.
Don't do that. Don't get your Sanchez on.
Just get away from there. All right, 215-592-9494.
I forgot about that.